Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you'll never miss a new episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another I Love Dentistry office hours with Gary Takas. Gary, I know you had a relaxing vacation with your son. Before we jump into today's episode, how was your trip?
Hey, it was nice, Naren. We spent the Memorial Day weekend with our son, our daughter-in-law, and our newest granddaughter who turned 1 on Monday. So we got to celebrate her first birthday and had a great time. It was wonderful family time for sure.
Thank you, Gary, for doing these office hours. I think we are coming up on finishing year 2 almost of these office hours.
Yeah.
And today's topic is a good one, and the topic is titled Myth Busting. Is hygiene a loss leader? So I know you have a lot to say about this, so I'm really excited about this topic today, Gary.
Yeah, I have some pretty strong opinions about that myth. And the myth, again, is hygiene a loss leader? Let me address that point blank right at the beginning. No, no, and no. Your hygiene department should not be a loss leader. And if you think that, we're going to share some information with you during this I Love Dentistry office hours that will help you dispel that myth. And I know there are dentists that think of their hygiene department as a loss leader, and perhaps that's even been their experience, Naren. And once you've experienced something, it can kind of have a way of giving you a perspective, can't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we had a bad experience, and then I remember when I was a kid, my mother, baby or like a toddler, my mother used to tell me that she would tell me not to go near the stove. And I would keep going there. And she one day took my hand and put it on the stove. And then I would never go there.
So maybe for some dentists, the hygiene department is the proverbial stove. Well, we want to change that. We want to help you change that because in a thriving practice, the hygiene department is a profit center. And of course, it's much more than that, Naren. And I only started with that phrase because we had the myth, is hygiene a loss leader? No, it's actually a profit center. But let's back up and really talk about what a high-performing hygiene department does for the practice. It does so many things. It becomes the touch point for our patients, the most common touch point that we have with our patients. It keeps us connected to our patients. It helps us keep our patients as healthy as they can be. Helps them maintain great oral health. And there's so many great reasons why hygiene department needs to be viewed from a positive perspective, not only behaviorally, but also financially as well. And so hopefully we're going to change your perspective on that and start to see hygiene as what it can be in your practice. I was very fortunate when I started in this profession in 1980. Dr. Omer Reed, took me under his wing as a mentor. And he said to me, and I remember the first time we met, he said, Gary, always remember that the hygiene department is the backbone of a successful general practice. And he said it so convincingly back then in 1980 that I embraced it with both arms, and I believe it even more strongly today. After owning a practice, I believe it even more strongly today.
Let me ask you a direct question, Gary. Why do you think it's the backbone?
Because it's our touch point with our patients. It's the way we interact most frequently with our patients. Depending on their periodontal health, depending on their health, we'll see them every 3 months, every 4 months, every 6 months, in the hygiene department. And it's our most frequent touch point that we have. It's the way for them to be connected with our practice community. And if we do it right, it keeps them coming back. It keeps them coming back. One of the reasons why I have an even higher regard for the hygiene department today is that if your practice does what I call high value services, things like dental implants, placing and restoring dental implants, things like adult orthodontics, cosmetic dentistry, where we can provide the patient a beautiful functional smile. Things like complex restorative dentistry, where we can do full mouth restorative dentistry. Another example of a high value service might be diagnosing and treating sleep apnea with appliance therapy. All those different high value services that I mentioned are often a matter of timing, Naren, meaning is it the right time for the patient to move forward with that type of care? And timing is somewhat outside of our hands. As much as I would like to say we have complete control over timing, the truth is we don't have complete control over our patients' timing, meaning it could be financial. It might not be the right time to financially invest in a smile design. It might not be the right time if a procedure requires multiple appointments. It might not be the right time in their life where they can devote the time to have those kind of procedures done. However, by staying in touch with them through our hygiene department, we provide continual touch points with our patients. And we let them know that, hey, we might do a check-in call. You know, Dr. Paul might say to a patient, let's say her name is Linda. And Dr. Paul might say during a hygiene exam, you know, Linda, we've talked in the past about doing a smile design for you. What are your thoughts about the timing of that? And she might say, well, doctor, I want it more than ever, but right now I've got my 2 girls in college and we've got to finish paying those college tuition bills before it's my turn. And it's an easy way to say, Linda, just know we're ready when you are. And it's a way to stay in contact. And I notice in my own practice that we do a lot of elective high-value dentistry when we stay in touch with our patients through the hygiene department and letting them know that we're ready when they are. So another reason why I even appreciate the hygiene department more now.
You know, we said it's not only a loss-making, it's not a loss-making part of your business, but actually it's a profit center. Can we expand on that, Gary? Why is it a profit center? Let's take Life Smiles as an example.
Let's give you some metrics to measure that. If you're not measuring these, doctor, let's give you some things to measure. Number one, in a thriving practice, 33% of your practice revenue comes from the hygiene department. 1/3 of your practice revenue. And think about that. That relieves, let's say you're a solo dentist and it's you and your hygiene department that are the different production departments in your practice. Everybody produces in your practice, but those are the ones that we can, categorize. That means that 1/3 of the burden, if you will, of production falls on your hygiene department. So it's not all you. It's not like you're that Atlas figure carrying the globe on your shoulders. You know, you get some relief from that. 1/3 in a thriving practice, 1/3 of the total revenue comes from the hygiene department. Now, I would love to say that in a perfect world, we want 100% of our patients involved in active recare. Naren, I think the words that we use are important. And one of the words that I would like to eliminate from the dental vocabulary is the word recall. Recall is something Detroit does for bad cars.
Yes.
So I would like to eliminate that word and replace it with we care. We care. And so in an ideal world, I'd love to say that 100% of our patients should be involved in recare, but that just isn't realistic, Naren. It's not realistic in the, in the realm of human nature. However, let me give you a very high target, and that target is 85% of your patients we want involved in active recare, 85%. Now, Naren, let me give a little cushion to that. That's a very high level of performance. As of the time we're recording this I Love Dentistry office hours, the Olympics are going to come up in about 6 weeks. That may change depending on what's going on in Japan with COVID. But as of right now, they're scheduled to be a go in about 6 weeks. And the Olympics is a place for world-class performance. Would you agree, Naren?
Yes. Yes.
So the statistic that I just gave you, 85% of your patients involved in active recare, is Olympic level performance.
Yes.
It's not for the faint-hearted. It's Olympic level. But that should be something you strive for. Because we do know, and I'm going to introduce a benefit statement to you. Anytime you talk to your patients about the importance of keeping their hygiene appointments, I want you to use a benefit statement. And I want you to say something like this. Naren, if you're my patient and I'm the hygienist, I might say, Naren, it's really important that we see you on a regular basis here at Life Smiles. And you have nice and healthy gums. That means that your frequency would be about every 6 months. And Naren, if we can see you every 6 months, then we're going to accomplish two things. We're going to help you become as healthy as possible in terms of your oral health, and we'll be reducing your future dental expenses because we'll be able to stay on top of things if we start to see any concerns. That, combined with good home care, is going to help you be as healthy as possible. So there's nothing wrong with putting an onus on the patient that they've got to be responsible for good home care as well. But now I've given you a benefit statement on why it's important that we see you every 6 months. And people will respond to that.
Thank you, Gary. I know one of the things you do with your coaching clients is you help them implement systems. And of course, there are a lot of systems on how to get people to show up, keep their appointments, even case acceptance, right? Leveraging that opportunity that the hygienist has with the patient and possibly the doctor to talk about high value services. Can you dive a little bit on that, Gary, and share
let's
some
stay with metrics for a little bit.
Yeah.
We gave you the metric of 1/3 of the total practice being produced by the hygiene department. Another metric we gave you is we'd like 85% or more of your patients involved in active recare, regularly scheduled active recare. Here's another one. At the end of the month, I would consider this another Olympic level of performance. 92% or more of your available hygiene appointments got filled during the month. 92% or more. And again, Naren, that is a very high level of performance. That's not easy to do. However, you see it in my own practice, Naren.
Yes.
And then we also see it in our mutual clients that we have around the country. We have clients all over the country that during the month of May that we just completed, they were at 93%, 94%, 97%, 92% filled. So if it's been done before, it must be possible. Would you agree, Naren?
100%.
So there we go. It's been done before. Now here's another metric. Ideally, I'd like to make the next hygiene appointment for 90% or more of your patients in your practice. Notice that it's not 100. It's not 100. Because there are people in my practice, in your practice, in every practice that are not reliable enough to keep an appointment they make 6 months in advance.
Yes.
They just don't have the
Muscle memory.
They don't have the organizational genetics to keep the next appointment. So quit pounding a square peg in the round hole. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. But instead, we shoot for 90%. So if you saw 20 patients in hygiene today, I'm just making up a number. Let's say today was a day that you saw 20 people in your hygiene department. Then I would like 18 of those to have made their next appointment, whether that's 3 months, 4 months, or 6 months in advance. Another really good metric to use to kind of measure how you're doing in hygiene. Another metric, and this is probably my favorite one, it is long overdue, Naren, for us in dentistry to get serious about diagnosing and treating periodontal disease. Periodontal disease is an epidemic in the U.S. It's an epidemic in the world, but it's an epidemic in the U.S. and North America as well. So in a thriving practice, we would like 30% of the adults that you saw last month being treated with conservative periodontal therapy codes. 4341, 4342, 4355, and 4910. 30% or more of the adults that you saw last month. And notice that I clarified as adults, Naren, because periodontal disease is largely a disease of adults. There is such a thing as juvenile onset periodontitis, but it's very unusual. Periodontal disease is usually something that adults will experience. So among the adults that you saw in your practice last month, we would like 30% of those to be treated with conservative periodontal therapy codes, meaning that we're diagnosing and treating them appropriately for their clinical signs and symptoms of pocket depths and bleeding points. And you know what, Naren? You've heard me say this. Data never lies.
Yes.
People do, and I don't mean that in a critical way. But if I've often asked doctors, Doctor, how do you think you're doing when it comes to conservative periodontal therapy in your practice? And a common answer I have received over the years is, Gary, I think we're doing really well. That's something we have focused on in the past, and we talk about in our meetings, and it's something that I feel like we've got a good handle. We could probably improve, but I think we're doing pretty well. And then I said, do you mind if I find out with data? He said, please be my guest. I think you're going to find we do pretty well. And remember, the goal was 30% of our adults being treated over whatever time period you want, being treated with a mix of conservative periodontal therapy codes. I have on more than a few occasions done the research and come back and said, Doctor, let me show you the data. Remember, our goal was 30%. Last month, you were at 6%. Last quarter, you were at 7%. And the typical reaction I've gotten from my clients is, oh my gosh, I had no idea. But notice what they said at first. The perception was that, oh, we're on top of that.
Right.
But data never lies. Data never lies. So do the data. But there's another metric that we can use to measure the importance of periodontal health. And with what we know today, Naren, about the connection between oral and systemic health, periodontal health is more important than ever, because if the patient has an infection in their gums, the infection isn't just here, and it isn't just here, but in fact, it's here, meaning that pathogenic bacteria is circulating through the circulatory system. And we now know that if a patient has an infection in their gums, they have a much higher incident of heart disease, stroke, diabetes. Among the women, a higher incident of preeclampsia, early term birth, and certain cancers as well. And so it's more important for us to be vigilant about that more than ever. And there's emerging evidence that shows that an infection in the gums may have a connection to Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and fertility as well. There's emerging evidence pointing to a strong connection in those areas as well. So more important than ever to be the guardians of our patients' health.
Thank you so much, Gary. This is really, really useful. I really appreciate today's office hours. I think this is going to be one of the ones that people share and perhaps even share with their team members. So thank you so much for your time today.
Well, if I can close on maybe a homework assignment. Doctors, I believe that our mindset has a lot to do with our results. And if prior to watching this I Love Dentistry Office Hours video, your mindset was hygiene is a loss leader, I'm not going to be critical of you holding that perspective, because perhaps that was your experience. But I want you to change your mindset moving forward and start to look at the amazing opportunity that a world-class hygiene department can have in your practice. And I want you to start thinking it that way and start holding it that way in your mindset, because it may affect how you interact with your team members, how you interact with your patients, and it may be that as you think about it as being a core of your practice, that will become your reality as well. Now, you got to take some action, but that can become your reality. But I believe it starts with the right mindset. So let me encourage you to flip the switch. The cool thing about mindset is literally you can flip a switch. You can flip it from the way you used to think about it to the way you choose to think about it moving forward. And the last comment that I would have is that your past doesn't need to be your future. Maybe your past was such that your hygiene department was not the core of your practice, but moving forward it could be with the right action.
Thank you, Gary. You have people watching us live from New Zealand to US to all over the place. So thanks everyone for watching.
I love our Australian friends, our New Zealand friends. We have a wonderful dental community in both New Zealand and Australia as well as around the world, actually. On Thriving Dentist Show, Naren, you probably know that we're now listened to by dentists in 185 countries, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Thank you everyone for listening, and have a wonderful rest of the week. And by the way, we have surpassed 8,000 members. I think we are closing in on 8,500. So we appreciate every one of you, and we can't do what we do without you. So thank you.